Just another few moments, please. And I think we are live. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Grey Lounge as we have started our live podcast sessions through our Chapter 3 UK with the help of our very, very dear friend Raza Bhai, Mr. Raza Hussain. And after our first successful program that we have started on every Tuesday, 8 a.m. UK time called Point to Ponder, tonight we bring one of our very esteemed guests from UK, and Mr. Radhabai will take over from here and introduce our guests and to all our Grey Lounge members, because I have been really looking forward to have him on board so that we can get to benefit from his experience. He's going to mention all that he has been through in his journey in helping people, in providing a better standard of life to people all over the world. So Radhabai, please, if you could take over from here and introduce our esteemed guest.
Thank you very much, Zubir. Thanks. Once again, it's a great pleasure to be here and to welcome our guest, my dear friend, Mr. Ajmal Ramzan. Ajmal and I have a long history together. We've known each other. I won't even mention the years because we go back much longer than most of you and your age put together, probably. Ajmal is an incredible guy who I have utmost respect for. We've traveled together, we've done business together, and we currently work on certain projects together now as well. At the moment, Ajmal is in the charity sector, but that's not his background. He comes from an engineering background, and then he moved into corporate life, and then from corporate life, he moved into the charity sector. Ajmal, welcome to the Grey Lounge.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody. I hope everybody's well, inshallah.
Yeah. Before we get into the projects, if you could maybe just give us a little bit more on your background, how you started, your family background, your sort of what you've been involved with previously, and then we'll move on to the charity side, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, you know my name, Ajmal Ramzan, and I was born in Pakistan in Gujranwala long time ago. And I came to England in 1968, about 55 years ago. Yeah. And
Sorry, yeah.
You might want to mute that, yeah?
Yes, I've done that.
Yeah, okay. So I came in 1968. My father used to work for the British Army as providing support to the British Army in Pakistan. And this was before Pakistan was actually made, before 1948. He used to work as a master tailor, and he used to provide uniforms to the officers. So he used to make the uniforms. And with the British Army, sometime he worked in Pakistan, sometime he worked in Calcutta, sometime he worked in Rangoon in Burma, and then Beirut. And his last stop was Episcopi in Cyprus. This was 1965. So at that time, England was going through expansion in terms of textile growth. And at that time, they said to my father, look, come to England, we need you, bring your family, and you'll get a visa, you'll get stay, no problem, everything was fine. So we came in 1968, and my father said to my mom, Safia, let's go to England for a couple of years, let's make some money, and then we'll go back. That was my father's plan, but Allah had a different plan, yeah. So 10 years later, my father passed away in 1978, and the rest is history. We are still here 55 years on. Unlike the dream of most Asian parents, they wanted their child to become either an engineer or a doctor. Yeah, and I went into the engineering side. I got a degree in mechanical engineering, and I worked for a few years in engineering, but I stopped because I found the work not as challenging enough. So then I did engineering work, and then as Raza mentioned, I went into the corporate world, and my forte or my experience has been business development. So any companies that are starting to grow, I used to work for them and help them to grow in terms of their expansion, in terms of their growth. I did that for about 20 years or so. And then I went to Dubai, and I was working with Raza about for 3-4 years in the airline industry.
We did.
Yeah, and we had plenty of business from Afghanistan, and we did some projects in Africa as well. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. It was a good time. It was a very nice time I spent in Dubai. And
Ajmal was known as the King of Afghanistan. He was our man on the ground in Afghanistan. We put him at the front line, and he dealt with all sorts of people, all the Americans, all the locals, all the Brits. And he was actually physically on the ground in the American base camps. Ajmal, please do tell us your story about your base camps and who you dealt with.
Yeah, well, I would have imagined that I was going to be doing this kind of work, but what happened when I went to Dubai, I was working with Raza, and I came for a different project. I came to do an IT project in Dubai, but then the CEO of the airline said, Ajmal, there's a small project in Afghanistan, and can you go and have a look at that, see if there's any scope in that, we can grow that. And that was to open a charter airline service from Kandahar and Kabul to Dubai. So we went there, and this is the first time I actually saw the NATO and the US Army working in Afghanistan. And I worked in most of the bases. I think Bagram was the biggest US base outside USA. And then Kandahar was appointed to NATO, and they were handling those camps. And I had to deal with the US Army, all the generals, all the colonels, everybody to convince them that they needed a service from us. And alhamdulillah, we managed to convince them, and we were moving the civilians from the Afghanistan, the bases. And we did that for about 3-4 years, and alhamdulillah, we did really well. And we did that for 3-4 years. Then I came back to UK, and I came back to relax and just to take some time off. And this is where the charity sector work started. What happened? One of my close friends, he's a Syrian. I've known him for the last 30 years, since 1992. He said to me, there's a charity that is struggling at the moment, and we need some guidance. And the charity's name was Syria Relief. And they were providing aid to the response to the issue what's happening in Syria now. I think the problem started in 2011 in March, when the civilian rights started, and then you see, I think everybody's seen what is happening. So the charity at that time was raising money around 3 to 3.5 million pounds a year. And I came in and I looked at it from a corporate perspective, how we could actually grow the charity. And by the grace of Allah, the charity within 3 years grew from 3 million to 24 million a year, 24 million pounds. Yeah.
MashaAllah.
So it's a huge jump.
8 times.
Yeah, 8 times. And over the 3-4 years that I worked, what we raised and what we put in the pipeline came to about nearly $100 million. And in order to provide the aid, we had offices in Turkey on the eastern side. There's 2 cities one is called Antakya, the other one's called Gaziantep. And we had offices there, we had staff there, and we bought aid from either Turkey and take it into Syria, or we actually bought it from inside Syria. Now, that is a huge humanitarian crisis. The I think 50% of the Syrians had to be moved from their homes, and they have left their homes, whether they were living in the north, the east, the south, and they all moved towards the northwest of Syria. And you call them IDPs, internally displaced people. So can you imagine 11, 12 million people being displaced? And the way they were displaced, if you hear their stories, actually is really, really emotional. I mean, can you imagine if I came to your house with a group of men holding guns, and we say to you, you have 24 hours to leave your house. And if you don't leave your house in 24 hours, we will kill you and your family. So this is the situation that these people were faced with. Their livelihood is gone, their jobs are gone, their houses are gone, their cars are gone, everything's gone. So they had to leave whatever they could get, put it into a car and move into a safe area, which at the present time is in Idlib. This is the situation that they're faced with. And then we had to respond to that. So the way the charity sector's world, we actually worked with most of the biggest charities that you know. Save the Children. Save the Children is an international charity. They raised $2 billion a year. That's how big that charity is. Then there's World Vision, there's CARE, there's the UN World Food Program. We were working with them. And our specialty was that we were on the ground, because all my staff, which we had in Turkey and which had in Syria, they're all Syrians. And that was the advantage. And
Well, how many staff did you have? Because I think it's interesting just to give the scale of your operation that you was working there.
Yeah, we had offices, 2 offices in Turkey, 1 office in Iraq, and we had 8 offices inside Syria. And in Syria, there's areas one is called Raqqa, the other one's called Aleppo, the other one's called Idlib. Then there's Ghouta, which is on the southern side, and there's the Hama. So all these offices we had, and we had 110 administrative staff and 1,700 project staff. So basically about 1,800 staff. And we were implementing aid on a daily basis of £100,000 every single day. It was a huge project.
Yeah.
And the 2 of our biggest projects was education, because these children, surprisingly, they don't know how to read Arabic. They're Arab speaking, but they don't know how to speak Arabic, because when they were, can you imagine when they were 3 years old or 4 years old, they had to move from their homes, and there was no schooling. So it was vital that we actually educate the children. The reason being is that hopefully these children, when they grow up, they'll have a future, and hopefully they will rebuild Syria back again. Yeah. So we had, I think, nearly about 100 schools that we was actually running at that time for the last 3-4 years. That was one of our main projects. The other main project was the health project. And I think everybody's heard of the barrel bombs that were dropping in these opposition-held areas. And these barrel bombs were devastating. They were merciless. They picked randomly. They just dropped them. They dropped them near schools. They dropped them near the masjid. They dropped them in the bazaars, in the markets, and the result was really devastating. These people, there's thousands of thousands, tens of thousands of people who've lost their limbs. They have lost their arms, who've lost their legs. That was one. The other one, the army itself, the army of government of Syria, Assad, they were, my personal opinion, they were psychopaths. The way they killed and the way they maimed the general public, it's unimaginable. And one of the stories that really shook me, I mean, we in the charity world, sometimes we do the work, but actually when we see what the people go through, it really gets very emotional. There was one incident where a group of people came, and there was a husband and wife and two daughters, 11, 12-year-old daughters. So this group came, they raped the 2 girls in front of the parents. They put petrol on top of them afterwards and set them alight. This is the situation that they were being faced with. And then what they do, they kill the husband, shoot the husband, and beat the mother up. This mother, she came across from Syria into Turkey, and we had to take her to a psychological clinic. Now, when in the psychological clinic, we can't really say to them, oh, may Allah give you sabr. We have to do more than that. She's gone through a trauma. She's lost everything. So you have to provide psychotherapy. You have to provide drugs so that she can go through this time, the suffering that she's going through. So this is like the typical kind of stories that we had to address. And this is where our health project of hospitals, of psychological clinics, of physiotherapy clinics, we were actually doing. And we were spending nearly £3 million or £4 million on each of these two sectors that we were working with. And what made it more difficult, then you have the Turkish legislation, Turkish rules with regards to taking money across. There needs to be transparency, there needs to be visibility, there needs to be accountability in everything what we do. And then we have the laws of the land of the UK, the Charity Commission, which we are governed by. They need to say, Ajmal, you need to make sure that your money is going to the right place. It's not going to any militia, it's not going to Al-Qaeda, it's not going to ISIS and of that. So there's so much red tape we had to go through. But alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, that we were achieving what we wanted to do. And we did that for about a good 4 years. Then I left the charity after about 4 years, and I took some break. And then I was approached by another person. And
just before you move on, Ajmal, that break, do you think it was necessary? Because I know that you was on the front line and you was dealing with all these traumas and tragedies, and we've had these discussions, but does it affect you personally on a personal basis?
It has affected me in terms of, when we were growing up and we said, oh, I've got a tough time. Oh, this has happened. My father passed away when I was 17 years old. And we said, okay, we have these issues. But we thought our life was difficult. But when we saw their life, we said, alhamdulillah, we live like kings, because we never go to sleep hungry. Those people go to sleep hungry because they don't know where they're going to get that meal. They don't know where the meal is going to come from. They are staying in tents at the moment. And I think if you've been watching the news, Lebanon has had the worst winter over the last 40 years. So these people are living in tents, and there's 2 feet of snow. Now, can you imagine 2 feet of snow and living in tents, and it's so cold, and they don't know where their meal is coming from? These are the people who have got a tough life. And it definitely has changed me, the way I think, the way I look in life. And I'm so internally grateful to Allah for what I have. But then at the end of the day, I'm a Muslim. And I'm sure you understand that there's hadith and there's Quranic ayats where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Muslim ummah is one body.
Yeah.
If one part of the body is hurting, the other part of the body should feel the pain. And if they don't feel the pain, then there's something wrong. Then there's definitely something wrong. So this has affected me, the way I live. And at the end of the day, I have decided that I will do as much as I can. Allah give me health, as much as I can, to help the poor and needy. Now, the poor and needy, not necessarily Muslim, is human beings. We are vicegerents on earth. And at the end of the day, we are looking after fellow man, all the creatures that live on earth, and even the plants. This is our responsibility. We need to look after that. And then this is something that I'm fully devoted to do. Now, coming on to my recent project, I'm working for a charity. I was approached again, but this charity was a very, very small charity called Global Relief Trust. And this charity is working not in just one country of Syria, but they are working across 7, 8 countries. One is Bangladesh, one is Pakistan, and Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, and the other is Burundi, which is in Africa, and Lebanon, Yemen, Gaza, and also Syria and Turkey. So, but when I joined the charity in 2018 was raising about £200,000 a year, which is a very kind of considered as a very small amount, a small charity. And this was about 2-3 years ago. But alhamdulillah, now, I think last year we raised £7 million. Alhamdulillah. And again, we're doing a lot of work in Syria and Yemen and Bangladesh. And one thing I noticed in Pakistan in 2019, we only did £25,000 worth of aid in Pakistan. So I really wanted to increase our support in Pakistan. I think last year in 2021, we spent about £150,000 in Pakistan. And this year, our budget is going to be $250,000. And hopefully we are growing this project, this particular sector in this country. And in Pakistan, and the most important project for me on my mind is really education. Our vision, as Zubi was saying, what is your vision? Our vision is to eradicate poverty around the world. And by eradicating poverty is not providing food parcels. Food parcel is a temporary solution. You can provide a food parcel which will last for a week or a month. But what happens after that?
Yeah.
So you have to break that cycle. And breaking that cycle is you have to educate the children. So if you educate the children, and then hopefully, inshallah, these children will become professionals, they will start earning income, they will start looking after their families, and hopefully, inshallah, start looking after others as well. That was one. The other one is, as I mentioned, that we are there in this, the UNHCR says that there's 2 billion people around the world who have inadequate water. Now, 2 billion is a quarter of the world's population. And they don't have the basic necessities. So yeah, you want to help them, but the thing is, one of the things is they don't have the bare essentials, which is water. So water is something that we are concentrating on. And in the last, I think, 18 months, we put in about 1,000 hand pumps in Pakistan, in Leia and Bakr. And we want to expand these projects, not in putting hand pumps, but actually putting bigger systems in. And we're looking into that so that we actually can do more water projects inside Pakistan.
Zubi, by the way, Ajmal is a water expert. He's been working in the industry, both within Pakistan and internationally, for over 20 years. So we will be calling upon his services for some of the project work.
Yeah.
He's also offline. He's mentioned about him having some water filtration pumps, which we will take from him for our purposes as well. So that is a separate discussion for a separate time. But all I wanted to mention is that we have an expert amongst us, and we can call upon his services if and when required. Brilliant. Do you want to add anything on to that?
Yeah, because the way you mentioned, the way that I would personally want to add here that now that you're installing certain water distribution systems, be it tanks for distribution, the way you were mentioning offline, which I would want you to reiterate here now that we're online going live. What we could do is, just the way Raza mentioned, we could support the cause, the purpose that you have for providing water, that when you install this distribution system for those people in Bangladesh, I suppose that's where you're working on, we could, right now, because of this conversation we're having, we could also add from our side, our company side, a water treatment plant donated for those people that you mentioned offline, that when you put that distribution network, we would provide you from our inventory a plant to make that distributed water bacteria and virus free and safe by all standards of World Health Organization and the local standards of Bangladesh. So we could add that from our side, that we are willing to put a plan from our side, so that such a noble cause would also have our share of good deed to it. And whenever you say, we could work on that.
Much appreciated. Inshallah, we will be talking to you after this this seminar. Yeah. Now,
Definitely.
with the projects that we're doing in Bangladesh, we've actually installed nearly about 1,000 hand pumps there as well, and deep wells as well. But we want to do something bigger. So there's an area in Bangladesh called Khulna. There's about 400,000 people, and they have difficulty in accessing water. And the water the water table, which is about 100 feet below them, has got a lot of arsenic in there. So an arsenic is poisonous, and people are actually drinking this water, and they're actually getting injuries from that, and their health is actually being affected severely. So we're looking into systems where they do reverse osmosis, or if you're near the sea, we're looking at desalination tanks systems. So we're looking into that now, and there's a project that we may be doing where we're installing a reverse osmosis plant. And the plant may cost about 40 to 50,000 pounds, but that plant will provide clean water to 150,000 people. 150,000 people. It's a big project. Yeah. Inshallah, if that is successful, we'll do 3-4 more there. And then also, I've asked our field office in Pakistan to look into doing bigger projects rather than the hand pumps. Yeah. So this is something that we want to do, and we can get funding for this. And inshallah, this is something I want to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
The one that you was talking about, Ajmal, in Kashmir's side, the storage village, it's very difficult for to gather the water. If you can maybe expand upon that, please.
Yeah. So there's certain areas in Pakistan where, especially in the mountains or in the hilly area, where the villages don't have clean water. The only water they have is whatever's running in the stream at that time. But then the streams dry up. So what we're thinking of, we've initiated a project now where they're going to be building a storage tank, a concrete storage tank, which will store the water that's coming from the streams, and then it will supply this particular village. This particular village at the moment, the way they're getting water, the ladies go down the mountain and they go to a spring and they fill a canister or a container of, say, maybe 4 to 5 liters of water, and they take it back up the mountain. But if they go during the day, the spring is so busy, they have to wait. So they go at midnight. They go midnight down the mountain, fill the container of water, 4 or 5 liters, take it up to the mountain, use that water, and they have to repeat this exercise every midnight, every day. So, I mean, I like to travel and I like to climb mountains, and I know how hard it is. But for ladies to do that at night, and go back again, it is really challenging. It is.
And
really
to do for recreation purpose is one thing, and to be forced to do it for basic necessities is another.
Yeah.
By the way, Zabi, last year he got me roped into climbing a mountain here in UK for charity, and I promised him I would never do that again. So if he comes and offers makes these offers that we're going on this hike and we're going on this trip and it'll be good and interesting, say no. Don't go. No.
No, I'll be taking Raza again up Snowdon, which is the highest mountain in England, and we'll be raising money for water projects. And then, inshallah, don't worry, I'll rope him in. I'll bring him in.
So first you would raise him up to the mountain.
Take the money from me.
First, you're going to raise him up to the mountain to raise money. Okay. Well, it's very interesting. Firstly, I would want to say that personally, it's an honor to have you in this conversation tonight, and to have gone through this quick trip down the memory lane of your past few decades of working for people and under the toughest of circumstances, the way you mentioned, be it Afghanistan or be it Syria, and the way you mentioned just a glimpse of a few pictures that you showed to us of Syria out of the many that you could not probably even mention in such short conversations. But it is not just commendable, but as I said, it's an honor for us to have someone with this vast experience of supporting people on board tonight. And but while I was going through listening to the conversation, I couldn't help thinking of certain questions that I would want to ask.
No, please fire away.
Yeah, because the experience that you have had so far is amazing, and the first few questions that come to my mind is that when you were in situations like the one that you mentioned in Syria, when you have people being not just displaced internally through forced circumstances, but also having lost their families and loved ones in attacks and in these sort of encounters, the way you mentioned that people could just enter your home and create hell out of a very beautiful tiny little heaven that we tend to have within our homes. These sort of experience not only do they change the person you are the way you mentioned, but what do you see is the effect of this nationwide? And because you know these people, you've been with them, you've spent time with them, and of course you would know life stories of many of these people who have had good times and bad times and unpredictable times, and now a probably very unpredictable future. How do you see that? What do you bring home with you when you come back to home in UK? And if a person like me asks me that, okay, you know what, when you look at Syrians, this is how I would want to express them through your lens, through your experience.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I've met and that have come across the border, I was amazed with the confidence and the calmness and how they actually took this situation on board. And it's a trauma. It is a trauma. You saw Syrians coming from the border. The town, which is very close to the Syria, is called Rehanli. So they come in with just black bags. And in a black bag, this is the clothing that they have. This is what they totally own. This is their assets. They come across, and they were very calm. Yeah, and yet they've gone through so much. And then we, like I said, as I was explaining, that we moan and we say we've grown, we haven't got this. I didn't get my salary increase, so I've got a Toyota car. I want to get a Mercedes. These are the problems we have, but those people, they have different problems. Yeah?
Do you think it's that they go numb by the extensive pain that they get, or what is that?
No, they've accepted this has happened, but then they picked themselves up really well. And because most of my staff in Turkey, in Gaziantep and in Antakya, they're all Syrians. They've gone through that trauma, but the thing is, they're looking ahead. How can we survive? And they're doing they'll do any kind of work that you want them to do. Obviously, ours is all administrative work, but over there, they were willing to do anything to service that hunger. And you have boys who are, I mean, like I said to you, there's some of the stories when I used to hear them, I used to walk out of the room and cry outside, then come back again, because the stories are really heart-wrenching. Is one story which I was just going to eat a meal in the restaurant in Turkey, in Antakya. I saw two boys, one about 8 years old, one about 11 years old, and they were carrying a trolley to put plastic bottles in there. And I saw them, and I had my staff member with me. I said, look, ask him where's his father and where's his mother. He says, my father's passed away, and I'm collecting rubbish, recycling it so that I can get food for his brothers and his mother. Yeah. And he didn't say anything else after that. This is what he was doing. He has to survive. So he looked like he didn't have a bath for maybe a month or two. But this is the way they survived. And then, but they were quite calm about it. Nobody said, oh, this is the situation I'm in, I'm really bad. No, nobody said that. They said they had to pick themselves up and, carried on with life. So the Syrian people, just like normal human beings, like you find in Pakistan, like you find in England, good people, caring people.
You have also worked in Gaza. you have teams in Gaza
Yeah, yeah.
and Lebanon. So
Yeah,
what is the difference that you feel with these areas?
Gaza, Gaza is a long-standing issue which is going to be there for a long time. This has been going on since the Crusades, you could say, yeah. I think in last Ramadan, the last 3 days before the end of Ramadan, there was bombing taking place there, and our staff member was involved in helping the people whose houses were being destroyed and the families were being killed. And he was actually sending us live media in terms of what he's doing. And he was actually psychologically affected. And he said, I don't want to work no more. The reason being is that he wasn't picking dead bodies from not only dead bodies from the ground, he was actually picking up pieces of meat. And he actually showed me, he said, we're showing those videos. Obviously, we can't share those videos in the public because they're too gruesome. So it's just like pieces of leg, arm, stomach, shoulder, head. This is the situation that they were facing. But this is a long struggle, which the solution is, I can't see a solution. Because at the moment, the Muslim, as I mentioned to you, that if the hadith or the ayat which says that the Muslim ummah is like one body. We don't really feel that pain. If we don't. Overall, the Muslim, if we felt that pain, what would we do?
Of course we don't.
How many Muslims are there? What, 1.4 million, 1.2 billion? And the leaders, Muslim leaders, are not doing much. They can do a lot, but nothing's happening. So those people are suffering. Those people are suffering. And it's like a prison. And we raised, I think in that appeal, we raised about £700,000. And we're providing them with food, regular food. We're providing them with clothing. We're providing them, the houses were demolished with the bombing. And so we're providing them some sort of shelter, repairing the houses, etc., etc. But that problem is like basically they're in a prison.
So the situation you see from the Ghazans is the way you mentioned is different from Syrians, because the Ghazans are born with this fate and they don't think they would ever come out of it. Frankly speaking, I have spent my whole life listening to this and being very closely affiliated to it, and yet not being able to do much about it. I also don't see any hope, frankly. Yeah, of course, we're Muslims, we're optimistic, we always have a hope and tawakkul in the Lord, but these kids are born with this fate. But when we talk about Syria or Lebanon, for that matter, do you feel any difference in the approach to life between the Syrians and the Gazans?
Yeah, the people in Gaza, the amount of confidence that they have, and the tawakkul that they have in Allah, these people will never give up. These people will never give up. They will give their lives, and they're doing that. They're giving their lives for the sake of establishing and standing up for what is right. Yeah, and this is their land, and they're going to fight for it as long as they can. Yeah. So from that point of view, like you said, that they've been the kids who have been grown up. Actually, majority of I think nearly 40% of the Gazan people are under the age of 25. There's a large percentage of this, and all they've known is war and conflict. So this is normal for them, and they will carry on doing this. And the confidence that they have, inshallah, we hope that they do get their freedom. So inshallah.
This is how I see it. In 48, Israel starts this upon Palestine, and India starts the same thing on Kashmir. So for the past 70 odd years, both these our Muslim brothers and sisters, we see them under siege one way or the other, and under this constant state of terror, and then the whole world is rather silent on this. And then not just silent on this, amidst all this, they also managed to bring Syria down, and Lebanon, and Yemen, and at times even Pakistan and Afghanistan. Now, you are working in this field of helping the affected affectees of war and other acts of nature as well. what brings you into this as a person? I mean, okay, there's a Global Relief Trust vision and there's a Global Relief Trust mission statement, but as a person, how how would you say, and how would you encourage other people or motivate people, or what is the drive that keeps you going through these terrible scenes that the way you mentioned that they're heart-wrenching, and yet they give you the strength and courage to go on and help people further. What is the motivation behind this?
I mean, the main motivation is that it's my own religion. I'm a Muslim, and as a Muslim, we understand that this life is temporary. Yeah, this life is temporary. This life is a test. You came here for a test. We all came for a test, and we are being tested one way or the in a different way. And our test is to pass that test and seek the pleasure of Allah. Now, we may have 10 more years, 20 more years, or 30 more years to live. And the life that awaits us is infinity. And there's no comparison. You can't compare it. It's like if I say to you, can you give me £1 today and I'll give you 1 billion in 5, 10 years, whatever. It's a no-brainer. So, but the thing is, most of the public, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Jew, we are getting distracted by the attractions of this world that we live in. And this is the point, we're being distracted. So, but at the end of the day, alhamdulillah, like I said, that you'll be practicing our deen, and then we want to seek the pleasure of Allah. And if you look at my WhatsApp message, the statement that I have is, Kar pala, ho pala. Yeah, simple Punjabi language, Kar pala, ho pala. So if you do good to somebody, good will be done upon you. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do. And this is what life is really about. Life is not about me. Life is not about what I have for myself. Life is about what I can give to the others. And that's what life is about. So this is something life has taught me. And inshallah, for the remainder of my life, this is what I intend to do. And I think everybody needs to do this. I mean, the overall, from a big macro scale, yes, the Muslim governments are weak. The Muslim governments need to do something. But the thing is, at the end of the day, they have gone away from Islam. That's the reality. That's the reality. I mean, somebody once told me the story about how Islam came to Pakistan. Muhammad bin Qasim, just to give a historical lesson, Muhammad bin Qasim came to Hindustan, yeah, and he was there, he was camped there, and he was near the river Indus, yeah, and then what happened is the Khalifa called him back. Oh, you need to come back, there's some problems we are facing. But at that time, what happened, one Hindu person came across the river and he raped one Muslim woman. What did Muhammad bin Qasim do? One woman was raped, Muslim woman was raped. He went across the river and he conquered that area and that village, and he left people there. He left people there, and then a small group of army left, and then he came back. Those people who lived there are the reason why we are Muslims in India, because of one woman got raped, yeah? But now what's happening? Everybody, this is happening in occupied Kashmir, this is happening in where it is in Myanmar, this is happening in Bangladesh, this is happening in Syria, this is happening in Yemen, this is happening all over. Yet the Muslim world is very quiet. And yeah, we just need to wake up. And at the end of the day, the leaders need to wake up. But we need to carry on fighting. And the most important thing, Zubi, and this is for the audience, is that when we go, we need to make sure that we've done our bit.
Yes.
Because I'll be judged for my actions, not for your actions. And Raza is going to be judged for his actions. So like the Buzurg say, main apni coverage jana. Yeah. So you got to prepare for that. Yeah. This is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Mashallah, amazing, Ajmal Bhai. I am already motivated a bit more than I ever was because the way you have lived your life so far and the way you look at things, you have simplified things to a very understandable level, and that is how I think every person, I believe, every person should simplify his religion, his concept of belief to a very simple black and white factor, and I think that's what's keeping you focused. There are other questions I would want to add because you mentioned that currently you're working on two sectors. GRT is working on two sectors, education and water. Because you mentioned very beautifully that eradicating poverty does not mean throwing some food packages from an aircraft, but rather actually getting to the root of the problem and then solving it from there, from downwards towards up. And I believe you in the same concept. So I totally agree. So could you also, for the sake of our audience and also our current members in the call, express a bit further about the education, the education sector? I mean, how do you see how does GRT proceed with these education-based projects, or what do you think in the future you plan to do to spread the awareness of having education in the system? What just a few words on your vision in the education sector.
Yeah, the as I mentioned to you, our charity is quite a young charity, which is about, like I said, 4 or 5 years old. And only, I think, 3 years ago, we had one school. Now we're having about 12 schools that we are sponsoring. And five of the schools are in Pakistan. Now, the poor, they don't have any resources to educate their children. Yeah. And this is something in a normal government, like in England, the government pays for your education right up to the age of 18, which is called A levels. And then when I did my degree, the government actually paid me to do the degree. They actually paid me, and I did my degree in 1980 and 1984. I finished my degree. The government paid me £2,000 a year so that I can do a degree. Can you see how much the government invests in the public,
Yes.
in the youth? So
Yes.
£2,000 in 1980 is like saying, I'll give you £20,000 a year to do a degree. So this is the way the situation was. Now the times have changed, but they charge for the degree now. But I think so this is what we need to do. This should be provided by the Pakistani government in Pakistan anyway. Free education for all the children, yeah? And they need to invest in the future. But this is something that maybe they are planning to do. Imran Khan is planning to do, and hopefully it will take time. But in the meanwhile, time is running out. What about the children of now? We need to provide them education. So what we do, we have our office in Islamabad, and the CEO who's running the office, he does, what we do is carries out a needs assessment. So whether it's in Kashmir or whether it's in Pakistan, in Punjab, these are the areas we're working in. They do a need assessment that these children in this particular village or this particular town, they're not having an education because the parents can't afford it. So we are saying, okay, we will provide that for you. So we work with local councils. We work with the local council that we want to establish a school here, or we want to sponsor a school here. And then working with the local councils, say we will provide the funding. Yeah. And we are growing these projects with regards to this. Yeah. And the idea is that when we provide education, we don't say, here's the money, provide your education. We monitor that. At the end of the day, for every penny that we spend in any country, we have to be accountable for it. We need to be transparent, and we need to make sure we're having maximum impact. And so we monitor the schools, we monitor the attendance registers, we monitor the attendance register of the staff, we monitor the quality of education that's being provided. Yeah. So that if the teachers require training, we provide the teachers with training. Yeah. So make sure that they deliver the best education possible, so that these children, when they grow up, when they go to college, when they go to university, they achieve what they want to achieve.
So
Yes,
currently
perfect.
we have 5 schools in Azad Kashmir side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And all 5 in Azad Kashmir.
Yeah.
That is good because the way I see it, for Azad Kashmir, we are focusing on water sector also. You've got
Yeah.
projects coming in Azad Kashmir. You've got education projects on ground now with 5 schools in Azad Kashmir. That is interesting for me to know, for all to know, I would say, because then
When I came last time, we went up with the team up into Kashmir side, and that's why we were up there. We went
I
to
remember.
visit the schools there.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you went there. So now you could after the success model of the Kashmir side, you could replicate these models into Punjab and other provinces based on the need assessment, the way you mentioned that your local office does the due diligence and all that process. And in the water sector, just like you mentioned the project in Bangladesh and also the projects that you've done so far with hand pumps and all this. What is there any other venue that you are thinking to explore? I mean, from this a sector that you were thinking to add after having gone through the experiences
Yeah, the
in the near future?
the other two sectors that we are concentrating on now is health and livelihood projects. Livelihood projects are sustainable projects where we we don't, as they say, we don't give them the fish, we teach them how to fish. Yeah, and we've done quite a few in Kashmir and in Punjab, where we are providing ladies who want to become seamstresses. We teach them how to become a seamstress, and then we're providing them with a sewing machine and some haberdashery so they can become independent. So we're providing that. For example, we've been providing second-hand rikshas. I think a rickshaw is probably 200. Let me how to get it, about £400 or £500 for a second-hand rickshaw. So we've been providing rickshaw to people who actually men who can actually start doing work and start earning income from day one. So and also we're doing supporting people to open retail outlets. It could be stationery, it could be groceries, it could be green groceries. We give them a budget, say £400-500. So okay, hey, we're going to buy this stock for you. You start selling the stock, and then from the profits, you start replenishing the stock and then becoming livelihood projects. So this is one we're doing. And the other one, which is very close to me, is Cataract Operations. My daughter is an optometrist, so in England. And when I looked at what the cataracts can do and how simple it is to help a person who is blind or semi-blind to see, and the cost is what, £40, which is nothing really in this country. So we started a project in Pakistan, and we're doing phase 2, where every 3 months we're going to be holding a cataract surgery and providing cataract operations for 100 people. So we'll hold the clinics up. These clinics will assess the public coming in. Most of them will not require cataracts. They may require some sort of a medicine for their eyes, or maybe glasses only. And only a certain amount, small percentage will require cataracts. So we're providing cataract surgery. It costs £40. And to bring back vision for somebody with £40, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we're doing this. We're doing this as a kind of an annual project throughout. Every 3 months, we'll be doing this clinic.
Okay, wonderful. So now you're also expanding into health sector and livelihood projects, and I'm quite intrigued by the livelihood project concept, the way you intend to uplift people out of their poverty and giving them a self-sustainable system for them to not only rely on, but to also encourage them to get out of this misery and be a bit optimistic about life and banking on their own abilities and capabilities. Because in our program on Tuesdays that we have, point to ponder, we call it. We are also discussing projects, bringing projects to Pakistan where these various organizations are now starting to join hands with us to bring model villages where densely populated slums of Pakistan, where people have pretty much nothing to do but to gradually fade away out because of poverty. So I'm interested also to see how well your livelihood projects go, because they could probably become a success model for the concepts that we are hoping to bring. That if GRT can manage to lift people out of their current state and give them a small livelihood to maintain a lifestyle that they can and not wither away because of their circumstances, then maybe that success model we could replicate by means of knowledge sharing from your team and pass it on to our teams, that this is how this is how you started, this is how you give them the whole mechanism behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, as I mentioned to Raza earlier before this our conversation started, that we have also our project teams on board. I can ask them if they have any questions. We have Ms. Sara Rasool already introduced to you, Hisham Akhtar already introduced to you. There's Hiba Javed, one of our project heads, and Yusuf Ali Shah, one of our project heads. Anybody, if anybody wants to ask a question, please take the mic and ask Mr. Ajmal Ramzan the question that you want.
Well, I have a question for Mr. Ajmal. First of all, I would like to appreciate whatever he's doing right now. It's really, I don't have words to explain my admiration for whatever he's doing right now. Let's say, for instance, if somebody wants to join his mission, whatever he's doing right now in areas like Syria or Gaza also. If somebody wants to join his mission, what can he do to approach this organization and give his effort, put in his efforts for this cause?
It's a wonderful question, Ajmal Bhai. Many people would want to ask that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Hisham, what it is that, firstly, I think the most important thing is that we pray. We pray for that we remove any zulm being done on any person, and this is the most important thing that we need to do. And then in terms of actual support, depends. I mean, we have teams who are working in the respective countries. In Gaza, we use people from Gaza. In Syria, we use people who are Syrians. I mean, I've never been to Syria myself. The reason being because I hold a British passport, and the British government advises us not to go into Syria because it's a conflict zone, and there's bombing taking place, and then I'll be in trouble if we do that. And similarly in Pakistan, we have staff, we have a team working in the office in Islamabad, and they are paid staff, and what they are doing, they are implementing projects on the ground there. Now, in terms of what you can do in Syria, I mean, the only thing you can do at the moment really is if you want to make a donation. Yeah, you can make a donation to a charity which is based in the UK and is for a particular cause, whether it's you want to support in the educational side or the health side or the food side, or even shelter, providing tents, etc. You can provide us with providing us making donations, but otherwise it is difficult to go into the various countries because we use respective field teams who are known, who know the system, who know the culture, who are working in their own environments. Yeah.
But sorry, Shambai, I would want to add another question in the same sequence. What if there are teams on ground and or teams close by in these areas, and who would probably be working on similar concepts, but are working on their own independent, and would want to join hands somehow to join in the force and get some benefit from your presence and your activities, and probably benefit your organization somehow, how would that be possible for a layman, for these organizations or small groups of people who are already there and are planning on working on certain projects in those areas?
I think Hisham is muted. Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, Xaryab bhai, hearing
I
you.
think Ajmal bhai cannot hear me.
Actually, some call came in, so I couldn't listen to you. Can you please repeat it for me?
Ajmal bhai, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what if some organization group or people want to add into your with your organization somehow on ground in certain areas?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, certain areas in Pakistan or certain areas in other areas.
Anywhere in the
Yeah.
world, wherever your presence is.
Yeah. The thing is that individuals or going into working in these areas, I would not recommend that. Yeah. The reason why we don't recommend that, because from a security perspective, the other one from a compliance perspective, because we work with charities and we work with local charities. Our office in Islamabad is a Pakistani registered charity. Yeah. And the ones that we're working in Turkey, they're a registered charity in Turkey. The ones we're working in Burundi is a registered charity in Burundi. And from a compliance point of view, because of this media frenzy on anti-terrorism and all this, the banks have become so cautious. They want to make sure that the money that you are sending to whoever you are sending it to, they're sending it to registered charities, and the money is being spent in the right way, and there's transparency and accountability. Yeah. And because this is a whole system that works, so I advise to that individuals not to do this, then collectively we can do this. Now, for example, if Hisham wants to do a project in Pakistan, of course, if there's a project which is interesting and which is something in line with the way we want to move in our vision and our mission, then he can send me a basic concept note of this is what they want to do. Then we can look into that, and then we will have our Islamabad office look into this, do an assessment, and say, yes, this is really needy and we need to do something. And then if we can get the funding, inshallah, we will support you. Yeah.
What about projects? See, the way I understand Hisham Bhai's question, I know where it's coming from, because he is very keen on working with in areas like Syria, like Lebanon, like Jordan, because he has a project. He has a project planned for people of Jordan, because Jordan is one of those countries where even basic drinking water is not even available to most of the population. And he was very keen on. He has also started working on a project plan to provide clean and safe water to people of Jordan. So I'm sure he was asking in the context of that. And since you have a water sector in one of your projects division, or however you say, how you call it, that's the area of focus. So I think he was asking in reference to that, but that if a project of such sort where he's supposed to provide water to people of Jordan, how would GRT be able to support them with their presence in the areas near about?
The thing is that Jordan is an area that we're not working in at the moment, and the way the humanitarian system works is that if I'm going to be working in Jordan, I need to get the permission and licensing from the Jordan authorities. If I'm going as GRT, or Hisham has got an organization which is in Pakistan, he has to get registered. And that process can take anything from 6 months to a year. So to go around that, the way to do it is that find a charity that is already working in Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know charities in the UK that are working in Jordan. So and if they're doing wash projects are water, sanitation, hygiene. Yeah. So we can approach them and say, okay, you want to do this, and this is something that you can do. You can go there and monitor it. Yeah, Hisham can go there and monitor it, have a look at it. But then the project will be carried out by a registered charity inside Jordan.
Yeah.
That's the best way. Otherwise, I mean, it's like me coming. I came to Pakistan, I think 20 years ago. If I wanted to put a hand pump in Pakistan, I wouldn't know what to do, where to go, where to buy the materials from, where to get the permission from, find out who needs it. So you need local knowledge. And those people who have been working there, and then they will have the knowledge to do so. But then the most important thing is that if you work with a charity, is better. So Hisham needs to, if he wants to do a project, he wants to fund a project, but if you do it through another INGO, non-governmental organization, and I can find that out for Hisham. So I know there's 2 or 3 charities that work in Jordan that they can provide that for him.
Okay.
But individually, as individual groups, I would not advise, because it's
of course. But that part we totally get. And I think this answers one of my also questions that I had, the way you mentioned that you have an office in Islamabad already, and of course we've got Raza Bhai and in contact with you. If there are projects or concept papers for charity projects or social welfare projects that we can always send them across the concept papers to you and see if that project builds some interest in your team, among your team, and is also in line with the areas of focus that you have, then of course we can have discussions and meetings subsequent to the concept paper upon your approval, of course.
Okay.
Okay, I've got other members also in the group. If they have any other question, or if Hisham wants to continue with the conversation, of course. Otherwise, I also have a few questions, so please let me know if
Actually, I have one more question.
Yes, please.
Like the kids, Ajmal Bhai mentioned in his conversation, those 2 kids that were at the restaurant who were collecting garbage and they were recycling that stuff for their living. If we want to, bring such kind of people out of Syria to Pakistan or to any other place where we can give them good business opportunities so that they can earn for themselves. Is it possible that we could help such kind of people in such kind of a way?
You mean they move over as refugees into Pakistan? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then in Europe is very difficult. In Europe, you just cannot bring from a charity. You cannot bring people from Syria or from Turkey into England. The red tape is so much, and at the moment, as you probably be watching the news, in France, people are coming. Syrian refugees, Afghanistani refugees, they are coming by dinghy boats, rubber boats across the English Channel, and there's a good percentage that actually die because they're actually coming illegally. Yeah, they're coming through this way, and then they're seeking asylum. Yeah, and so it's a big issue in Europe with regards to getting accommodating refugees. Now, if Pakistan allows that, and then we can look into that and say, okay, yeah, if the Pakistani government allows for refugees from whether it's from Syria or whether it's from Turkey to come inside, and you provide them a safe haven, or you sponsor them, or you adopt them as your own children. And this is something that we can look into. But I think it all depends on the Pakistani government's border control regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an interesting question, and I think this gives some food for thought to Hisham Bhai, that we could probably look into this matter and ask certain government officials as to what the policies are in place for such activities, and particularly in from areas like Syria, because I'm sure these policies vary from area to area, country to country, and time to time. So it's something that we could do some homework on. I just noted it down for some pointers of mine.
Exactly. That's what I was also thinking.
And probably this way you could also come up with a plan to have some sort of a camp established here for not only Syrian refugees, but be it people from Myanmar or anywhere else that could be affected in any possible way. So that itself could be a very beautiful project.
I think at the moment, maybe Pakistan's got their handful with regards to what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment. I don't know if there's been a mass exodus out of Afghanistan into Pakistan.
Yeah, but that's a bit too political, you know. The status of Pakistan and Afghanistan currently is still under discussions and under bilateral talks. But it's worth looking into in terms of the policies of the country.
Yeah,
and I think it could, if it's possible, and even if it's not possible directly, then I was thinking while Hisham was asking that question that maybe it is difficult to convince even the child himself or herself to leave the country of origin. Instead, there could be some sort of a plan or a project to give them the livelihood concept that you have, for instance, that you provide them with a livelihood there, where the kid is more acquainted to and has still some sort of roots, be it family or culture. So maybe that could be easier and more cost effective.
Yeah. Ideally, we prefer the IDPs to the internally displaced people to stay inside Syria because that's their home. And the reason why we say that, because maybe one day, inshallah, they may go back to their original homes where they are. But if they come across to Turkey or in Europe, then the chances of that happening is less.
Yeah. Just like you said, there's a fair chance and hope and tawakkul that things would get better. And for IDPs to bank on a hope is better than to bank on an unpredictable experience that we might bring them into and probably generate more psychological issues than the existing ones. Yeah. Okay. Any other question that any other member may have, or Hisham, if you want to continue, however.
Well, I've got a lot of points that can take me into so many other directions, but this conversation, this discussion is really lovely. It has opened up my mind, and it has given me a lot of opportunities to make a lot of researches in very different directions. So love you all, guys.
Thank you very much. Thanks. At some point, I do want to bring Ajmal over to Pakistan. It's been far too long since he's been back to the homeland, and we need to get him across and see and meet the people in Pakistan as well.
Yes, definitely.
He should, definitely, yeah.
And Hisham, if you have any queries, just send things by email, inshallah, and I will address them for you. No problem.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else from our side wants to ask a question or add something? Otherwise, I will move to one of my questions and then also let Raza take the proceedings from there onwards. I guess not. So it brings me to one of my questions. Raza, I would want also your presence in this question. Since we are discussing while you were disconnected, I mentioned our program Point to Ponder to Ajmal Bhai, and I mentioned that over there we are also discussing with Will and the team about poverty alleviation and the way he prefers it to be called at poverty elimination by the concepts and models that he has designed himself and with the team, and we are hoping to see those concepts practically landing in Pakistan very soon. So because Ajmal Bhai was mentioning a concept of livelihood, providing livelihood with people to people. So that kind of coincides with the concept of the poverty elimination that we discussed in our program Point to Ponder. How do you see, both of you gentlemen, how do you see these two concepts probably coming together in the shape of a pilot or a model unit somewhere? and probably because he has already done that and is doing this, and probably those models could be taken as success models for us to replicate from. And Raza bhai, do you see these two concepts coming together somehow?
Yeah, a couple of points come to mind. Firstly, Ajmal touched upon two or three, and excuse me because I got disconnected and found it difficult to connect. I may have missed some of the points, but you know, the women and sewing and giving the machinery and giving the haberdashery and bringing livelihood that way. The other one about the shops and you know, giving the goods in the shops to be sold. So we're always on the lookout for scalable projects that can enhance, or where we can actually increase the livelihood of individuals. And you know, that may require certain training, so we can accompany that with the training. The projects which I'm been looking at, obviously, you know, we're both very passionate about the whole poverty elimination aspect of it. But you know, everything comes with money. Everything, you've got to have that initial funding to be able to provide for these projects. And you know, apart from Ajmal's side, I'm working on these commercial projects where we can incorporate some of these ideas into this and do it on a large enough scale that you know, we're not individuals, but bringing whole communities out of this poverty trap that they currently face into. Ajmal, do you want to add to,
Yeah,
to,
I mean,
to that?
yeah, of course, Zubi. The thing is that, I mean, we can work on this and we can make it successful, and we can actually make it sustainable in the sense that we are thinking of a different model now with regards to supporting livelihood projects. If we provide funding, say, to £400 or something of that nature to individual families, okay, like, we'll help you set up this livelihood project, you start earning, then we're asking them, maybe after 1 year, you only pay 25% of it back to us. Yeah, and then it won't be considered as like a micro loan, but if they pay 25% of it back to us, then that money we could reuse again and help other people. Yeah. So this is something that we're looking into at the moment. So of course we can do this. As Raza mentioned, funding is the key thing. Yeah. And if the projects are good, and I'm sure we'll be able to get some funding. Yeah. We can start off as a pilot project. Yeah.
See, the thing is, while Raza bhai was disconnected, you mentioned this very thing, that to provide a certain person or a family, man of the house of a family, one person of the house of a family, you provide with, say, £500 as a soft loan. And in areas like Pakistan, or even if you go even further down in terms of economic conditions, if you go further down from Pakistan to areas where £500 means a lot more than what it means in Pakistan, and then down to further areas where it even goes bigger. I think it is a similar concept that we discussed in our program Point to Ponder, that we are also thinking that a certain organization is bringing loans, soft loans, into a system, and that system is then providing loans to the community which has already recognized but not registered people, recognized people that, okay, we have a community of, say, 1,000 people, or say starting from 250 people, a very small village. The way Will mentions that the memory of a person is statistically found to have 300 people's names and 1,200 faces that one recognizes. And so, starting from a very small town, a small village of 250 people, and providing £500 to one member of these 250 means to somewhere divided by 5. So you're talking about less than 100 people, less than 50 people. Or 50 people, so 50 times £500, if that gives these 250 people a self-sustainable model or small cottage industry, I would want to say that, okay, there's a bakery, there's a masonry, there's XYZ ABC things going on, and independently these families are given the chance and the support and the know-how and the confidence by a conglomerate of GRT and Argo and Hygia Blue, these sort of companies that are bringing these sort of concepts on ground. I believe that if I think it seems pretty doable for me now, after having gone through the programs of Will and Will Marcus, that they have established a mechanism as to how these 500 pounds could be brought to use ideally for a family to become financially self-reliant and self-sustainable. And you, as Ajmal Bhai, as a charity or funding group or supporting arm, could probably bypass the first half that we were discussing in our programs of getting investment from certain people. If a model of 250 families is funded for pilot in a small village of 250 people and united with the concept of Will Marcus and the team of Raza Bhai, I think we can look at an ideal pilot to test both the models, both the concepts for us for the livelihood project of GRT and vertical villages and food cube concept of Will Marcus. Instead of getting investors, because charity, of course, it has to be transparent and accountable, but it does not. It's not accountable in terms of giving back profits to people. It's accountable to see what we visibly did and how transparently we handled it and how we benefited the people that are actually supposed to be benefited. So the risk element of the return on investment that goes away because of it being charity, and the practical element of Will's and Raza Bhai's concept of vertical villages comes to life by means of this charity that GRT can bring, and the experience that all these groups put together have is immense, and I believe. So I believe this could actually very well be a very doable pilot to start off with.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. What you do is that identify a village and create a concept. On concept, okay, this village will need these particular kind of retail outlets or this particular kind of service, etc., and then put a budget to it, yeah, and pass it on to me. We'll have a look at it, we'll review it, and we can test it as a pilot project. And if this project can work and we make a success of it, then we can replicate that in other areas as well.
Yeah, Raza Bhai, I think what we could do is for beginners, we could identify, just like Ajmal Bhai said, we could identify a very small town and then bring our point to ponder team, our Will Marcus team on a Zoom call, this, and have Ajmal Bhai in the conversation, discuss the topography of the whole concept first to begin with, and then we have teams on ground available. We have people of the Grey Lounge, we have people of Clockwise Company also with us. We have the connections with the government also. We could probably get initial permissions for a testing project. We could even have local government on board to support us in these concepts in whatever way they possibly can. And then we can have some community head of that area to also come on board as one of the stakeholders for us to see this project go through. And then we can discuss it and probably initiate some sort of a pilot and see how, because I'm sure for starting off small is easier for all of us to generate funds. I could pull some telethon concepts in with our people to generate some funds locally, charity, and Ajmal Bhai is there through GRT could try to bring some people on board to provide charity. So starting off small with the concept so big that Will and you have, it's a huge concept and it covers pretty much everything, all the loopholes. Over the years, I think you have managed to perfect the sort of making it a perfect model, and the only thing left is to test it on ground now, and in a country like Pakistan. So I think we could probably attempt to pull out a
Yeah, I
miracle
mean,
together,
we
inshallah,
most
by the
definitely
will of
can combine
Almighty.
all the elements together and bring all the key stakeholders together and bring them on the same platform. Obviously, the charity side is very strictly governed because we're under the Charity Commission. We have to abide by the rules. The whole accounting process, audit process is very, very tightly controlled. Whereas on the commercial side, it will be under our own control. So there are similarities. There are similarities that we can maybe do the test pilot case and proof of concept, really, do it that way.
More of POC.
But the wider project is there, and that hopefully once we've secured the funding, and we're at very sort of late stages of that, that is something totally different, because that is a commercial venture with elements of social responsibility there as well. So most definitely, if I can add that the charity side, GRT, the fundraising qualities and the team that we have are excellent. They are very, very talented in that particular fundraising element to it. And, you know, the numbers speak for themselves, really. We do have a team coming over to Pakistan for distribution of some of the work that we're doing. And if you and the team in Pakistan can get involved in the fundraising side of it, I think that would also be an enormous help.
Definitely. And I think now, by means of the people we have, the teams we have on social media with and people like of those who have millions of people on board with their on one call, and for projects like these, for social welfare, these people really participate 10 times more than they would in other aspects.
Yes.
So yes, fundraising jointly organized online also through our Pakistan team and the teams that we have abroad. I think we can actually think of making a small pilot visibly possible for us to look at for us to look ahead into the project that we're bringing, the commercial project, to see how we learn, just like David said in the previous episode, how we learn with on-ground experiences and the on-ground atmosphere and climate and conditions. So let me I will put the team to the task. After this call, we would, in the coming day or two, we would have a team meet here. We would build some sort of a concept paper for you, and probably have another session of this sort, even if it has to be privately organized, not on live on our channel. We will formulate some sort of a document, add some pointers, and have another conversation one of these days, and see how we can initiate the fundraiser from our side. And you could guide us better with the experience you have, what points to add to that fundraiser, how to focus the reach so that it is targeted and more effective. And also we could assign some tasks to the team members that we have, so that we can distribute the responsibilities to make this document as beautiful as possible for us to all first internally accept it, and then we could initiate the fundraising and the project evaluation.
Well, you know that I'm always here for you. I'm a phone call away for whenever you want.
Thank you, Zabay. I cannot thank you enough for your support in general, and also now with these projects, because all we are trying to do is actually initiate something. We do not know whether we would see the actuality of it in our lives, but at least we initiate something of such a magnitude that can actually bring a change and make a difference globally. for all the people or for all the humanity before we end up as collectively as humanity to put on self-destruct the way we are we are doing. The way Ajmal Bhai was already mentioning that Islam may be the religion of the state, but it's not the practice of the states. That's why we are facing these sort of issues. So if we all could somehow add our drops of rain to generate this the flood of good activities that we want to, then we would always make ourselves available from outside also. And I
Inshallah.
thank you for your
Inshallah.
support in that. Okay,
Thank you very
if there's
much.
yeah, if there's anything Ajmal Bhai you want to
I mean,
add,
by
or
all
Raza Bhai
means,
you
if
want to
there's
add?
any questions afterwards, if any of your audience has any further questions that they want, please do forward them on. We'll address them as and when they appear. But I just want to extend my gratitude to Ajmal for his time. I know how busy he is. He's constantly on the move, and it's people like that that make the difference. And Ajmal, thank you very much for your valuable time today.
No, much appreciated. I much appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, any queries, or any projects, or any advice that they require, then I mean they can reach me through you. That's not a problem. Yeah. And the only message I gotta say to everybody is that yes, we look at the world and there's a lot of happening. Yeah, and there's much bad happening. Yeah, but the thing is, when you look at the tasks that are before us, they're quite daunting. But I think our leaders at the time of the Prophet ﷺ did not give up, because they were doing the right thing and they knew that Allah was behind him. And I think that the most important thing is that don't give up as long as that we do our bit. Yeah, let's do our bit. That's the most important thing. Yeah, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Ajmal Bhai. Thank you very much, Raza Bhai, and thank you for Hisham Bhai, Ms. Sarah Rasool, and all the attendees who were present during the conversation. And thank you, the viewers who would take time out to go through our very long programs, because they know that the intent of these programs is to spread good as much as possible, be it conceptually or practically. This is why our audience, I like our audience, because they get to be motivated, and that's why they go through all our programs and they get to be introduced by wonderful people like Ajmal Bhai this time around, and the way Raza Bhai is bringing all his team on board so that people would get to see what we have in store for all the people of our country and elsewhere. I thank all of you. And if there are any questions and comments, that you can always add to our YouTube channel and send it across to our WhatsApp groups that you have. And just add hashtag Raza Bhai or hashtag Ajmal Bhai to it, so that we know that you're addressing the question to the gentleman, and we would pass it across to them and get the answers right there and then whenever they're from their convenient time, and pass it on to you. And we would want to bring Ajmal Bhai one more time on board on a program, so that we can even discuss further activities, and probably also get another few glimpses out of his experiences that he's had so far in areas like Syria, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Gaza, and all those areas where people are affected by not just only natural calamities, but also man.
Ajmal is a very talented sportsman, by the way. He badminton and now all squash as well, but also golf now, and he's a very talented sportsman as well.
Wonderful, wonderful.
But the body's giving in now, so we gotta after that. Yeah. Okay.
No, we pray for more health and more rejuvenation and youth to you, and because the tasks, the purposes, the causes that you have are so huge that that one lifetime is not sufficient to support to help people who are affected. So we wish you all the very best on from our Grey Lounge side, and pray for your good health and your and the success of your activities and concepts and projects. And we wish to see you soon again, so that we can get benefited from you further. I thank you both, gentlemen, and I thank everyone. Until next time, it is Allah Hafiz from my side. Assalamu alaikum and
Assalamu alaikum.